What Ike Allen and Andy Anderson have created at Avaya is what the world needs.
Hello, Avaya family. I'm Andy Anderson. My partner Ike Allen and I are teachers, mentors, and the co-owners of Avaya University. Avaya is the creator of over 1,000 books, films, courses, teachings, and other supportive resources. Thank you, as always, for joining us. Our fellow teacher, Gloria Liebecker, is here with us today. Gloria is a transformational facilitator who empowers individuals to embark on a journey of deep conscious change. With her unique integration of equine-guided resonance coaching and constellation work, she guides clients in overcoming challenges, transforming old patterns, and creating lives aligned with their true desires. Welcome back to Avaya, Gloria.
Thank you, Andy. It's so good to be back. I look forward to our conversation.
Yes, me too. So can you share a bit about your expertise and experience in helping people overcome PTSD and toxic shame?
Yeah, well, as a facilitator for deep conscious change, I've dedicated my career to helping people to overcome those very things through a very transformative approach that integrates all those different modalities. So pulling on the expertise in the equine-guided coaching, as well as constellation work, and the teachings of structural patterns from nature, I accompany clients through a process of recognizing their challenges and then empowering them to make conscious choices that align with those desired outcomes. A key part of it is to be in relationship with them as they are moving through the process.
Mm-hmm. And when you mentioned I can't remember exactly how you said it, the structured, some patterns in nature, can you share a little bit more about what that is?
Well, if we look at nature, nature is always reflecting back to us our true path. So even if you look at water, when water flows, it goes with the path of least resistance. And so when we can actually slow down our life and we can begin to acknowledge the truth of our experience, we start to create a structure that allows us to begin to move through that path of least resistance back to our true essential nature.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing more about that. That was a great explanation. And okay, so when it comes to helping people with PTSD and toxic shame, what are some of the most common challenges you see in clients, and how do you support them in navigating those challenges?
Yeah, well, most of the time it's unresolved trauma. And it can show itself up as these self-limiting beliefs or shadow beliefs, and truly a disconnection from their heart, from their true essence. And so I support them in navigating these difficulties by creating a sacred space where they can interact with the horses, and then they can also tap into their innate wisdom. Horses are exceptional mirrors. They're reflecting our emotions and providing valuable insights for healing. So with the support of these majestic beings and the constellation work, which allows people to take things from inside and set them outside and to see them from a new viewpoint, then clients can uncover some very deep-seated patterns, and they gain clarity, and they can start to take those empowering steps towards their own personal transformation. So with guidance, they can embark on a journey of self-discovery and transformation. And it really allows them, there's a process where I actually have them move their bodies to step out of those patterns and step into their heart to elevate their lives to the next level of fulfillment.
Wonderful. Well, let's talk a little bit more about how you work with people. What evidence-based strategies or therapeutic techniques have you found to be most effective in people dealing with symptoms of PTSD and toxic shame?
Well, the equine-guided resonance coaching is one of those evidence-based practices, as well as family constellations therapy. So when they are doing the experiential exercises with the horses, the clients are engaging in nonverbal communication. They are developing body language awareness and also emotional attunement, because the horses, excuse me, they tune into them from the inside out. It's not what they say, it's maybe how they say it, or whether they're congruent. Are they actually expressing what's true in their bodies? And so these evidence-based strategies really help them to reconnect with their bodies, because many that have moved through PTSD and toxic shame, they've left their bodies. And they can develop the capacity to regulate their nervous system because they actually sync up with the horse's nervous system, which allows them to begin to feel into their body again, and they can release those emotional blockages. Where constellation work, on the other hand, it reveals the hidden dynamics within their family systems, which allows the clients to gain insights into the intergenerational patterns that contribute to the struggles. And then the teachings on structural patterns from nature, it really illuminates the importance of shifting from what I would call a reactive, responsive orientation, which is really fear-based, over to a generative, creative orientation, which is love-based. And this mindset shift really allows clients to approach their healing journey with self-compassion. And they can foster a real deep understanding that their struggles are actually a part of a larger transformation process. The energy there can be moved over to what they would love. So by working with the energy and the wisdom of the horses and the constellations, they can experience such profound shifts in their well-being, which really leads to lasting healing and recovery.
I love that. You have such a unique approach. I don't think I've ever talked to anyone else other than you that does equine therapy. And then the fact that you combine it with the family constellations and all the different ways that you blend those together. I love that. You kind of touched on this just now, but how have these approaches positively impacted the well-being and recovery of clients?
Well, because they're really encouraged to cultivate self-compassion rather than self-loathing, and it's by helping them learn how to observe and to acknowledge their emotions without judgment rather than being their emotions, right? Like, I'm mad. Well, no, why? I'm feeling some anger. So it's developing the capacity to observe your own inner experience. And so the presence of the horses, it really provides that non-judgmental space where the clients can really embrace being vulnerable and develop the capacity to offer themselves kindness and even acceptance that they may have been longing for. And with the constellation work, it helps them gain a systemic perspective, enabling them to see the interplay of the dynamics that they inherited within their family systems. And so it's growing awareness, which is a natural progression through their experiential learning, which then it fosters that self-compassion because they understand that their struggles, they're not solely their own, but they're a part of a larger constellation of experiences. And, when we're in shame, we believe we're all alone. And a lot of times in PTSD too. So when we can begin to recognize our culture, our communities, our families, we can start to recognize things in a new way that we couldn't see before.
Yeah, I love that you draw on that, recognizing that we're part of some bigger constellation, and I can see that even in myself, and just recognizing that it seems to take some of the identifying and the weight off of the trauma when at least I think of it in that way. It's something much bigger than just my experience, and yeah, I love that you brought that up.
Yeah, it's so important.
Yeah. And, go ahead.
Well, it's the part I know from my own experience, because my past, the reason I'm so passionate about this is that was my past, the PTSD and the toxic shame. And the way that I found my way out of it was through connection, through relationships, primarily relationships with horses. And then expanding that out to other aspects of life. So nature is super important, and yet nature and horses can allow us then to actually start to see people with new eyes. We can start to develop relationships first with ourselves, where we can develop some trust within ourselves, and we can have trust. We can start to allow that to be including other beings, especially when we can resonate with them and we can be understood and not judged. It's so important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I so relate to what you're saying. I'm in my mind relating it to dogs because that's my big passion, and just the amazing lessons that we can learn from animals in so many different ways, and how we can connect with them, and how that can help us on our journey. And like you said, like bring it out into then human relationships and all the great things we can experience and connections there. So you've mentioned self-compassion multiple times in the past few minutes. What tools or interventions do you have clients clients practice to help them cultivate that self-compassion?
Well, there's a variety of things, but the first thing that's important is to have an environment that's safe and really authentic, real. And also what I like to do is to do small groups. And sometimes people, they just want to just be one-on-one because their world's really small. It's all about them. When they can graduate then up to where they start to do things in a small group, they can begin to recognize themselves in other people, and they can experience some acceptance and some understanding. And so it begins to foster when you can connect with like-minded people who are also on their own journey of healing and growth. And so when you have a sense of community that fosters that mutual support, it creates a space where you can have, I take them through processes where they will do like a journaling, and then they can share with just one other person. And then they come back to the bigger group and they can share one thing that stands out to them. So setting it up in such a way that they can take those steps not so quickly, but as in their own rhythm. And there's no half, they can pass. But as they start to have the courage to be vulnerable and transparent, they're stepping into their heart. They're stepping into who they really came here to be. And because horses are so attuned to energy and emotions, they really play a crucial role in this process by creating that safe and authentic environment, because they're very real. They're very authentic. And even when we're in the small group circle and the horses are close, they're still interacting, they're still responding. And the people that participate, they really get that. I also can recommend resources for them. You know, there's some great books that are out there. I can make referrals when there's somebody that shows up that there's something specific and it's not actually my focus. I really highly recommend being connected with community so that you have resources both online and offline, so that you can collaborate with other practitioners and you can recognize when there's somebody that you need to refer to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious too, amidst this conversation of talking about PTSD and toxic shame, what is your definition of toxic shame? How does that occur for you?
Well, when you think of anything that's toxic, it's like it toxicity kills, right? And so when it's at a toxic level, it's been so incredibly intense that the person has the perspective that there's aspects of them that cannot dare to be seen or known about, that they're not allowed. And that's in my experience, that's hell. You know, how do you survive that when you're trying to safeguard yourself and not show up in certain ways? And it crushes the spirit. It's a collapse that happens. The shame reaction is a collapse. It's an attempt to protect self by being non-existent.
Yeah, and that leads me to another question. For a lot of people who have this toxic shame because of trauma, they might have a really hard time getting in touch with their needs and maybe their wants, and all of those things are I think in so many ways foreign to a lot of people who have this shame, because it's not what's on their mind, right? Is figuring out what they want or need. Can you share a little bit about like how someone can work through that shame into being present to their needs, and that it's okay that they have needs and they're human too and they get to have needs?
Yeah, just one little moment at a time. And that's why I love working in the field with the horses and with constellation field, is because it literally I've witnessed where it just slows time way down to where you can actually, they get to have the experience of being in the present moment. Because most humans are in their mind and they're racing ahead to the future, or they're focusing on what happened in the past, and they're not really present. So when you are able to have the support of these majestic horses they're just majestic because they exist, and their hearts and their guts are huge, which they have this huge energetic field, just being with them changes the way our bodies are regulating. And when you can focus the attention with intention to that specific moment of what's just happened for you. And we all intuit information differently. It doesn't have to be that we feel a sensation in our body or that we can see a color. It's how do we receive information, and to honor that for each individual, for them to realize they can't get it wrong. That right there is such a huge breakthrough. And just taking it in taking it in the rhythm that individual needs it. It's their journey, and to honor that and to accompany them on that. That's an honor that my herd and I get to experience as we accompany people.
Yeah, and you mentioned your herd, and I was just about to ask you if you have your own horses that you're, doing this work with. So can you share a little bit more about what that looks like for people who work with you, and how many horses do you have, and how does that all work?
Well, right now I have 5 horses, and I have a person that will be available when I need, depending on what the activity is, or if I have a group setting or not, that has actually gone through my program in order to become a facilitator. And so it looks different depending on what the program's going to be. But for an individual, they would come and they would get to come, and there would be a little bit of education around just the environment and the place. And then there'd be a walkabout where they get to walk around and observe the horses and just check in and see what it's like for them. And through that process, both the horses and the human make it known who it is that they're going to be working with that day. And it's pretty fascinating. When we do constellations, sometimes the person may be working with the whole herd. And so that also is a fascinating experience. I would accompany them. I would step into the area, the picadero. It's a sacred space. And the horses then, depending on what the person has named that they are focusing upon, what it is that they're there that they would like to receive, the horses energetically pick up on all that, and they start to represent different aspects of that experience. And the person is the one that recognizes who they are representing, whether it could be a family system, maybe it could be a workplace, maybe it could be just an experience of inside of themselves. There's different aspects of that experience. And so it's fascinating to witness and to see how it all just unfolds in its own timing. And it's really paying attention to the timing. And all of nature actually is a part of it. So butterflies, bees, wind, rain, it's just all of it is a part of that constellation field that has meaning that the person makes from it, not me. I just walk alongside of them because it's a sacred space.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing further about that. I was very curious about how that would work for people working with you, and obviously people just have to experience it themselves if they really want to know, but that gives me a better picture. One other thing that I'd love to explore with you is a lot of people who have had trauma might not feel safe, and also might have a lot of discomfort when they're doing their work. Can you share a little bit about how just because we're uncomfortable doesn't mean we're not safe? Can you kind of enlighten us on that?
Yeah, well, in my experience, I now recognize in my own life that when I get uncomfortable, there's something really important I need to be paying attention to. And I'm developing the capacity to become comfortable with getting uncomfortable, because to me, I now recognize it's a new layer of my own awareness that is presenting itself to me. And when I can develop the capacity to sit with what's uncomfortable and really receive the message from my body's wisdom, which again, if you're working with horses, amplifies it, and it's supported to be able to name it. Because like Daniel Siegel says, when we name it, we tame it. When we can sit with it and we can acknowledge either the thoughts, the things we're telling ourselves, our fears, our angers, whatever the energy is, our shame, our grief, and we can acknowledge, if it's available, what happens in our body when that happens, and we can just be accompanied right there. Then I have a process where in that experience, we sit with it and we can just acknowledge it. And then I have them actually step out of that circle of what that represented and shake it off. Because you remember, oh gosh, I'm going to lose the person's name. There's another highly recommended practitioner that has talked about how animals shake it off. And for right now, I don't know why, I just can't think of his name. But, and I use that as an example when I'm introducing people to horses. As humans, we tend to just keep it all in our head and in our body. But if we can actually do some physical things and we just acknowledge what that felt like, how that was to be us, and receive acknowledgement of how it is to be us, we step out of it and we shake it off. Then I have them make another circle that represents what they love. And it doesn't have to be necessarily the opposite of what they just had. It's a whole new world and different paradigm when they step into that, and they're supported to be in there in their heart. And then to just name what's obvious to them from that. It's a beautiful process that's astonishing to experience. And from there too, then after they've experienced that, when they notice what happens to their body, most of the time there's this lightness that comes. There's it's like the sunshine just came out from behind a big dark storm cloud. And they actually have a change in their face and their body. Then I also invite them to step out of that and to shake that off, and then to actually look at both. That's the constellation work, to look at both of those life experiences. And from there, they can begin to make a conscious choice of what do they choose? What do they, and then it's a progression to move from that. And that's actually a process I use several times a day. It can happen very quickly. In the learning of it, you're going to slow it down and to really honor and respect. It's not like a quick fix, but it's starting to pull back the curtain to reveal what's actually possible and what's available, and then to trust the timing of themselves. They cannot get it wrong. There's no time frame that they have to do this in, because there's no have tos. It's just really meeting them where they are, not just in their head, not just in their wounds, but in their heart, in their dreams, in their innocence of who they came here to be, and to be accompanied there too, to be recognized for the brilliance that they bring to the world that maybe has never been acknowledged.
Yeah. Yeah, I love how you talk about getting into the body and shaking it off and doing things, motions, movements, what have you. Go ahead.
That was Peter Levine. It just, when you said it, all of a sudden it came back to me.
I thought it may have been, but I wasn't sure if I was wrong, so I didn't say. Yeah, but I love that getting into the body. And so, right, if we could be playful about it, the times that we see people around or that are shaking it off, it's like, oh, okay, got it. They're doing their work, shaking it off. What about someone who experiences a lot of anxiety, worry, hyperarousal based on their traumatic past? Do you share any strategies of how you help people work through that?
Well, it's a very similar foundation that I provide. And one of the things that I do, I'm an advanced practitioner with integrated listening systems, and Stephen Porges has partnered with them to create a listening system that I don't have it quite handy where I could show it to you, but it's you can use it. It's a Sony Walkman, and they can put it on with a headset, and it has music that is specially gated and conducted, and the frequencies are just so, and it kind of goes in and out in order to work your middle ear muscle. And what that does is it really brings your social engagement system on board, the vagus nerve. And so it exercises the middle ear muscle to really allow people to begin to see and hear what they couldn't see and hear before because of trauma. And I really highly recommend working with a practitioner that's trained in that. When you have high anxiety, especially, it just really, you can just see the shift. It has a protocol, a 5-day protocol, but each person, it's really important that you're working with a professional that can recognize trauma responses, because it's got to feel safe. I mean, that is the one condition. It must be a sacred space that's safe. And if the body doesn't feel safe, because remember when we talked about it being uncomfortable, the body can mistake feeling comfortable with safety where it's not actually safe. And then they start to move into a new experience that's truly safe, but it's so foreign that it feels really uncomfortable. And the body wants to keep them from going over there because it has this deeply embedded pattern to survive. And it doesn't realize that you can thrive when you develop your capacity to, your resilience, to stay present with whatever the stress may be, and to move that energy into a different paradigm, basically.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for bringing in that safety and discomfort conversation again. And yes, training our bodies to I guess deal with more discomfort that can help us actually in our own healing.
Yeah.
And one last question before we start wrapping up, Gloria. If we had professionals tuning in today, which we do have a lot of different practitioners and therapists that also tune into Avaya events, what advice would you have for them who, if they're working with clients, if they're struggling with PTSD and toxic shame?
Well, the main thing I would recommend is that they have an approach with their work that is warm, empathetic, and really authentic. That creating that safe and non-judgmental space where clients can feel seen and heard and recognized. Really emphasizing that self-compassion and guiding clients from the fear-based, which includes all of the different emotions that can be perceived as negative, back into a heart-centered conversation with life, and encouraging a community that is a safe community where they can get to experience being seen and heard, and they're okay. They didn't get harmed after all. They didn't die. But that really fosters growth and healing for everyone that's in the group. And then, like I mentioned before, providing resources or referrals and recommending practitioners or practices that can complement the person's journey. It's really doing what's best for the person. And then also remember, prioritize your own self-care, because unless we take care of ourselves, we don't have the capacity to be fully present and grounded while supporting people on their journeys.
Definitely. Okay, wonderful. Thank you for sharing those strategies for any professionals that are watching or listening. Okay, so let's talk about a great free gift you have, which is a free chapter as well as a 6-week course you have below. We got buttons linking over to your website below.
Perfect. Well, it is a special offer for our viewers today to embark on a transformative journey towards this consciousness and empowerment. And I have an ebook. It's called Divine Pathways. So as a special treat for our viewers, I'm thrilled to offer you the opportunity to dive into a captivating world and unlock the divine potential within you by accessing the first chapter for free, and let your transformation begin. And what you'll see there is kind of like pulling back the curtain a little bit to my foundational program that I have, which is a 6-week course. And when you're ready to embark on your transformative journey of self-discovery and empowerment, mark your calendar for September 26th and join my upcoming course, Divine Pathways. We will dive into the depths of your unconscious mind. We'll explore core beliefs and shift your relationship with conflict to unlock your true power. And through these powerful teachings and practices, you'll be supported to create a life that is aligned with your heart. So don't miss the opportunity to step into your authentic self and to live a conscious, empowered life.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Thank you so much for offering both of those to our audience, and Avaya students watching. The buttons are below for that free chapter, as well as more information on Gloria's 6-week course. Do you have any last insight you'd like to leave us with before we wrap up?
Oh, I guess the most important thing is to really take time to be kind to yourself, to pay attention to what your body is needing, and to recognize that and to respond to it and authentically. So this is our vehicle in this life. Let's take good care of it.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Gloria. I so appreciate you.
Thank you, Andy. Good to be with you again.
Great to see you again. And thank you to the Avaya students who are watching or listening for showing up for yourself on your own healing journey today. We will see you again real soon. Take care.
Avaya has changed my life.
Avaya has made me the woman I am today.
Avaya is my home.
Avaya is personal freedom.
Avaya is the reason my life continuously improves.
Let everyone in your life know about Avaya.
Everyone needs to know about this amazing company.
Thank you, Avaya, for appearing in my inbox.
What Ike Allen and Andy Anderson have created at Avaya is what the world needs.